It is 3 o'clock in the morning. I guess Erin decided to start her day early today.
Well, at least she's happy. But man, it's going to be a rough day with such little sleep. You'd think we'd be heading to a theme park with that level of excitement.
In my personal opinion, the only reason to be up this early is if we are actually headed to a theme park.
Well, we may not be headed to a theme park, but I do know a way that we could wake up and get a little piece of that theme park magic here in our living room.
Dress Erin up as a wizard and pretend like we're riding on Forbidden Journey?
No.
Sing It's a Pirate's Life for me and splash water on our faces?
What? Never mind. We should brew a pot of Expedition Roasters coffee.
Oh, that's a much more sensible idea. I guess I'm too tired to think straight. What flavor should we make?
I'm thinking that maybe we could try their newest flavor, Wonderland Coffee Crumb Cake.
Oh, that flavor sounds really good. Or we could brew Fortune and Glory Bourbon Streusel. Or Enchanted Tiki Coconut.
Honestly, I'm so tired. I have a feeling that we're going to have multiple cups, so let's brew them all.
Uh-oh. Sounds like Erin requires our immediate attention, if you know what I mean. Want to take this one, Daddy?
What was that? I think I hear the kettle boiling already. I'm going to go grab that and make the coffee, okay?
But the kettle wasn't even on. Oh, well. As long as he comes back with a cup of Expedition Roasters, I really don't care. Come on, Erin. Let's go take care of business. Start your expedition today at expeditionroasters.com and use coupon code DUO15 to save 15% off your first purchase of Expedition Roasters themed coffees, shirts, and mugs. You can even get an art print of your favorite bag design. Brew your happy place. Expedition Roasters, an adventure in every bag.
Hi, and welcome to the Theme Park Duo Podcast. Grab your park map, churro, and hop in line with us as we take you on a coast-to-coast adventure through the world of theme parks, haunts, conventions, and more. Now, here's your hosts, Nikki and Gabriel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Theme Park Duo Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Gabe.
And I'm one of your hosts, Nikki.
And we are
the Theme Park Duo.
You got it right this time.
Yeah,
So
I said it.
Good job. So proud of you for knowing the intro to our show after 2 seasons.
I have pregnancy brain.
Pregnancy brain only lasts a certain period of time. You can't always use that
It
as an
lasts
excuse.
after. It does.
You had pregnancy brain before pregnancy then.
I did, but it got worse. It lasts after. It's a thing.
Truth. But this is not a pregnancy podcast. It's a theme park podcast.
Yes,
So that's
it is.
I put my finger into the desk like I really meant it.
Yeah.
Clearly you heard our new commercial that we had at the top of the episode. Hopefully you enjoyed it. A little bit of inspiration from real life
From
events.
real life struggles.
Real life struggles and events. In truth, we are very excited about trying that new flavor of coffee from Expedition Roasters.
Oh, yeah.
Because even though we they sponsor some of our shows here and that kind of stuff, we truly enjoy the coffee, like, a lot. So we can't wait to get our hands on that flavor and try it out.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I love streusel. It's streusel, right?
No, it's coffee cake.
Oh, it's coffee cake. I'm thinking of
You're thinking about the Fortune and Glory.
I'm thinking of Fortune and Glory.
There's that pregnancy brain again.
No, it's just streusel brain.
So we're pretty pumped on that. Before we jump into our main topic of the episode, wanted to talk tongue-tied pregnancy brain for me. Wanted to talk a little bit of the I can't say it. No way I can talk today. Podcast over. Have a wonderful day. So, okay, let's gather my thoughts here. Okay, let's try again. So, I wanted to talk briefly about an event. See, I finally got it out.
Yay.
Briefly about an event that our friends over at UUOP are having this year at Universal Orlando Resort. So, they're actually going to be holding an event there, which is October 4th through the 6th of this year, and it is called The Weekender 2019.
Oh, I wish we could be there.
Well, they planned it on Erin's birthday weekend.
How rude.
They unintentionally did that.
Yeah.
It's not like they purposefully were doing it to spite us. No. So they're going to have a really fun weekend planned, and it's also sponsored by Mouse and Muggle Travel Company. So if you go to their website, which is uuopodcast.com, you can find some links in order to buy tickets on Eventbrite, which is also a website. So you can head over to the Eventbrite page and you can find a little bit of information about what the event actually is. So the description here says, weekend events include, but are not limited to, park tours, group rides and photos, and even Ultimate Universal Scavenger Hunt, sponsored by Seth Cabersi, co-author of the Unofficial Guide series, which, by the way, I love his segment on their show so much.
Yeah.
It's all the little itty-bitty details that I would want to know about the park.
Yeah, that we live on that stuff. We love it.
The minutia, the theme park minutia.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of things planned, and if you listen to episode 343, if you listen to that one, it details out their entire trip that they have planned for the Weekender. So it's going to be a really, really fun weekend. I'm sad that we can't go.
Yeah.
I mean, we've only been to Universal Orlando Resort once. Mm-hmm. Wish we could go again.
We will be again.
Soon enough.
Yeah.
Soon enough. So make sure you head on over once again, uuopodcast.com to find out more details about that. I highly suggest you check it out and buy some tickets to head on out there and have a really fun weekend with some awesome, awesome people.
Yeah.
Other than that, we have a pretty fantastic episode planned for everyone today.
Oh, and let's not forget, we wanted to mention our recent trip to a certain place.
Non-Universal Park.
Yeah.
Lee and Tracy, cover your ears. Yeah, we actually were able to make it out to the Disneyland Resort recently. As you all know, we've mentioned before that we got rid of our passes just because of the living being that lives in our apartment now.
The living being.
Yeah, the living being.
The baby.
Yeah, that one.
That sucks up all our money.
Yeah, that one.
So yeah, so we couldn't afford passes anymore.
She literally eats money.
But yeah.
She loves quarters and nickels.
Yeah. We don't even blend them or puree them. She just eats them whole.
Don't call child services.
Yeah, so we let go of our passes, but we couldn't stay away. So, before Star Wars Land's open, Star Wars Land
I'm not
opens,
the only one who
you're not
can't
the only
talk
one.
today, so it's great.
We decided to take Disney up on their offer that they have going
The
right
SoCal
now.
Ticket
The
Pass.
SoCal Ticket Pass. It's like the
SoCal Ticket Pass. I don't know why I said that. It's a SoCal ticket where you get pretty much 3 days to go to the parks.
yeah.
1 park per day, and you have to use it within a certain amount of time. And
Yeah.
it's really affordable if you look at the ticket prices that you have to pay for a single ticket
Yeah.
just normally.
Yeah. It ends up being like around $60 per ticket, and they also have the same offer for the 3-day kind of ticket bundle at Sam's Club, and it's even a little bit cheaper.
Well, should have done that then.
Well, actually, they announced that Sam's Club was doing the promotion after we had already bought our tickets.
Oh, darn.
So, but yeah, so we bought the 3-ticket bundle. We added Max Pass, and we've used 1 day so far. So we went to California Adventure Park, and we had a blast.
Yeah, it was actually really cool to actually be back and see some of the bigger changes that are happening. Especially since we've been gone. Since you've been gone. Sorry.
I was in my head
You were
too.
on there too?
Yeah.
Okay. I Could Breathe for the First Time?
I
Is that
can
the-
breathe
For the first time. Okay. Anyway, moving
you've
on.
been gone.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Bugs Land actually left and is completely leveled and gone, and all there is construction walls around around Disneyland. Construction walls around the area of the park that say Stark Industries.
Yeah.
So obviously a nod to the Marvel themed land that's coming to the area in DCA. It's weird to see it missing. You know, I'm so used to having that middle pathway to go from Bugs Land to Guardians.
Yeah, it was rather annoying.
To have to go all the way
we
around.
had to walk all the way around every time we wanted to go away from Guardians or to Guardians.
I don't know why, but we ended up always going from Guardians to the roller coaster, which is very far away.
Yeah, it was quite annoying. But overall, we had a great day. We rode Guardians a few times. We rode the roller coaster a few times at night. We ate at the Lamplight Lounge,
which was delicious.
Yeah, it was delicious. It was fun. Loved the atmosphere. Loved the art on the walls. It was a great place to be.
Yeah, the drinks were cool too. I had one that actually had dry ice at the bottom.
Yeah.
So it had smoke coming up and out of it, and You had a very difficult time drinking it. It was very intimidating to you.
Yeah, it was messing with my nose. I couldn't drink it.
I was trying to drink and it just kept like attacking you.
Yeah. So yeah, we had a great day. We had a babysitter for Erin, so we were on our own. And,
Yeah, we didn't leave her at home eating nickels.
No. But I'm very excited because in April we are taking her for her first visit to Disneyland.
Outside of the womb.
Stay posted for pictures.
Yeah, so that is currently the plan, and then we'll have one more trip to Disneyland for ourselves.
For our wedding. No, not
Our
honeymoon.
anniversary.
For our third wedding anniversary. We're going to go back to Disneyland by ourselves.
We're actually going to go very close to the last few days we could use the pass, just simply so that we could see if maybe there'll be a chance there's a soft opening for Galaxy's Edge. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Worth a shot.
Currently the plan.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we have our main topic of the episode. We're going to be sitting down and talking with Bob Rogers. If you don't know that name, you should definitely look up the company name that he founded, which is BRC Imagination Arts. And they've helped create a lot of really impressive show elements in museums, at sporting stadiums, and a whole bunch of other things that really help, tell stories. And that's what the company does. They do a lot of work with distilleries too. So like Jameson whiskey, and they've done one at a Guinness factory, and a whole bunch of stuff. Map projecting and just helping to tell the story of different things.
Was it the Guinness brewery in Dublin?
No, I think it might be that one. There might have been a different one, but
that one had some
one.
pretty cool stuff going on.
It's probably
in it.
that one.
Yeah,
So,
I took the tour. It was pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah,
and they also created Mystery Lodge at Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
Which is a very interesting story, how that all came to be, which is the reason why we sat down with Bob in the first place.
Gabe is saying we.
It was just me.
I was not there.
Nikki was at work.
I would have gone, but I forgot to ask for the day off work. So
Not my fault.
It's completely my
Not
bad.
my fault.
Gabe told me the day well in advance, and I just forgot. So it's completely my bad. So sorry, guys. It's a pretty Nikki-free episode, except for this glorious opening. Maybe that's why I'm talking so much right now.
You're making up for lost time.
Yeah, I have to get my fill.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You have to get
People
your fill?
miss me.
Who's Phil?
The people's fill of me. They
What?
They like me.
Do they?
Yeah.
You've never asked them.
Do you like me?
I'll put a poll up.
Please. Please.
Anyway, you're
Please
derailing
say
the
I like
episode. Stop it. We're going to get to the episode now.
Okay.
So we sat down with Bob Rogers of BRC, and we're going to be talking in detail the story of how Mystery Lodge came to be, what it was before it was Mystery Lodge,
Oh, okay.
and how it got to Knott's Berry Farm.
Intriguing.
And a little bit of the details behind the magic that makes everything happen.
Nice.
So let's jump into the interview, and we'll catch you guys after. Hello, everybody. This is Gabe, and I'm sitting in a wonderful boardroom office in Burbank with a wonderful gentleman by the name of Bob Rogers. How are you doing today, sir?
Just fine. I'm glad to have you here.
You just took me on a wonderful tour of your office, kind of showed me the ins and outs of what you guys do here, as well as some wonderful examples of the work that you've done in actual displays that play with audio and everything. So I actually got to experience your work firsthand in your office, outside of obviously everything that you've done that I've gone through.
Well, these were the working mock-ups. When we're in the middle of something, sometimes we do a quarter scale or a third scale mock-up of something so that we can see how all of the different pieces of media and scenery, et cetera, all work together. And then when we get all done with the project, we don't have the heart to take them down, so we sometimes keep them. So what you did was you just stepped into the last stage of preparation for each of those projects before we took them on the road and installed them in their final home.
Mm-hmm. And so if you're unfamiliar with the work that Bob does at BRC Imagination Arts, it really involves a lot of interactive themed entertainment. You can go anywhere from visitor centers, museums, theme parks. You guys kind of do a lot of different things at your company, but usually all really revolve around themed entertainment. Some things that you might know the company for, things that I didn't know until I actually started doing my research, and I was shocked, is you guys helped create the original Magic of Disney Animation at the MGM Studios, and you also helped create the post-ride experience for Test Track, which is actually something very familiar to me after having experienced your F-150 display. So which one of those came first?
Well, long ago, even before the post-show for Test Track, we did the post-show for the World of Motion. Back when Epcot originally opened. Shows like Bird and the Robot, that some people still remember if they're old enough, and The Water Engine. And then after working almost exclusively for General Motors for over a decade, we changed teams, and we started doing things for Ford. And Ford has been a great client, just as General Motors was. A lot of fun.
So I'm sure the listeners have experienced your work before, just because it's so varied. You've won 21 Thea Awards. You've been nominated twice for an Academy Award. It's a lot of incredible accomplishments that come with BRC. And the main thing that we're going to be talking about today is something that's near and dear to my heart, because I grew up in Southern California, and having experienced this attraction, it made a lasting impression on me. And that would be the Mystery Lodge at Knott's Berry Farm. Something that I know a lot of listeners to the show are familiar with and also keep near and dear. When it comes to a project like that, where does the creative process start? And were you approached by Knott's, or where's the genesis of Mystery Lodge?
Well, first of all, let's go back, and a lot of the things we do, almost everything has a basis that we do, has a basis, some basis in reality or in an intellectual property that others will hold us responsible for doing correctly. In other words, we've only in our history done one thing that was just big, stupid fun, and that was with Woody Woodpecker for Universal, but we were between successes. We needed the money. So we did that. It was just crazy fun, but everything else is always about something. And I think that Mystery Lodge started that way. It has its genesis back, way, way back, in 1983, when we were starting to think about ideas for the World's Fair in Vancouver, which would be opening in 1986. And we had this crazy idea of doing something with Native Canadian culture and using Pepper's Ghost. And I mentioned this at a dinner one night with my two clients from General Motors. And as I described the show, they stopped chewing, they looked at each other, and then they both said almost at once, "Don't you tell anyone else about that. That's for us." And so it opened as Spirit Lodge at the 1986 World's Fair. We did 3 shows at 1986. And the shows all 3 of those shows were rated generally as in the top 5 pavilions of Expo. And they were Spirit Lodge in the General Motors Pavilion, our British Columbia in the British Columbia Pavilion, and Rainbow War in the Canadian Pacific Pavilion. But Spirit Lodge was in Expo 86. It was first of all, it had to be true to Native Canadian culture, and secondly, it had to be true to General Motors culture, and that's quite a story as to how that came about. The big thing there was that it understood and admitted that it was at the World's Fair, a World's Fair themed on transportation and communication. And it raised the taboo question at a World's Fair on transportation and communication. The storyteller came out on stage and said, "When I first walked around this expo, I was amazed by all the incredible technologies and the incredible architecture, and then my heart ran cold and I began to worry, where was the heart in all this steel and glass? And are these machines making us more like people or more like machines?"
Oh, jeez.
And my thought carried me back to another day long ago when the old ways were strong and the magic was real. So that's the taboo question. You're not supposed to ask that. It's on everybody's mind as they walk in, but they're not. You're not supposed to ask it. And especially now that you've asked it, you'd better have an answer for it. You'd better get out of it and land on your feet, which the show does. But from the point of view of another time, long ago, when the old ways were strong and the magic was real, and it's full of heart, it's full of magic, and it has like Mystery Lodge, the cosmology and the anthropology in that is as good or better than anything in the Smithsonian. Mm-hmm. And we worked hard at that, and that's another story.
Do you think that because you were able to ask that question and almost make the experience personal, do you think that's why it was such a success and people liked it so much? Because it almost made people think instead of being such a passive experience?
Well, sure, because it became real. It became a question that was on people's minds instead of, just something that some large corporation wanted to put across. Also, General Motors, it was very enlightened in that there was not one product or service that General Motors provided in that show. There was no car. People came into that show expecting to see the car of the future, or the freeway of the future, and instead it picked up, the reason it rhymed with General Motors' objectives is that years ago, back in the 30s, Franklin Roosevelt had made a speech called The Four Freedoms. And the chairman of General Motors made a subsequent speech called The Fifth Freedom, which was the freedom of mobility, the freedom to move. That's a theme that has run in General Motors deeply. In fact, the whole pavilion, It's Fun to Be Free, is all about that, the ability to go where you want to go, when you want to go there. So the story that we picked up out of the cosmology of the Kwakwala-speaking people of Alert Bay in British Columbia, the story that we picked up was a story about a magic canoe that all you had to do was sit in the canoe, wish where you wanted to go, take one stroke with the paddle, and you were there. And that's an old dream that's easy to understand from the point of view of any culture, because as the storyteller told repeatedly in Spirit Lodge, to stop moving is to die. All creatures know this. And so the storyline goes first, the animals who know that they need to either migrate or they need to throw their seeds upon the wind and waters that will carry them to new homes, that they need motion. Then he talks about how his people historically would move entire villages, though they lived in wooden big houses, and they would take leave maybe the major posts up, but they would take all the boards down and transport them by canoe to the place where the food was in the next season, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, then he talked a little bit about the spirits. But all of this was in the context of the stories that his grandmother used to tell him about things like the magic canoe, and he comes back and concludes in the end that really this whole World's Fair, I've become comfortable with it because it's all very much like the story of the magic canoe, of our dreams of transportation and our ability to go where we want to go when we want to go there. And so it was full of heart, magic, and I'm leaving out all the cool special effects that were along the way.
Yeah.
The other thing that we did there that your readers might be, or your listeners might be interested in, we were told initially that it was really tough to get the approval of the Native Canadian community. Really, really, really tough. And in particular, we kept hearing about someone that was referred to as the Dragon Lady of the Pacific Northwest Coast. This person named Gloria Cranmer Webster, and seemed very scary. So I suggested to one of our advisors, well, maybe we should talk to a lot of other people first before we go talk to her so that we've got some consensus building before we do. And he said, nope, don't waste your time. Go to her first, because if she likes it, nobody will say anything against it. And if she doesn't like it, you're dead no matter who said what beforehand. So we went to Gloria, and that must have been for her a tough meeting, because here's a major corporation, General Motors, and a firm from Hollywood, that would be us, and doing a thing for the federal government of Canada, which is, boy, big government, big corporation, and Hollywood have never been good news for, Native North Americans. And she listened, and I said, here's what I propose. We can attract attention. We can attract attention to your culture, and we're the experts on how to get people to show up and pay attention. But you're going to be the expert on what is or is not true and acceptable from a cultural point of view. And bless her, she took a chance on us. She took a chance on us. And we were so lucky that she had faith in us. That's what made this thing possible. She was the person, and she especially and her family, who initiated the repatriation of northern Native North American artifacts from museums back to their original tribes years ago. So even years later, when I was at the Smithsonian, and I mentioned her name to somebody else, I was backstage in an office area. 3 different people in the neighboring cubicles prairie dogged up and said, "Is she here? Is she here? What does she want?" So we love that lady. We love that. We started out initially terrified of her, with good reason, and came to profoundly admire her and all of the people that she works with in Alert Bay.
Yeah, I could kind of understand to a certain extent because my background educationally, and I know we've had a prior discussion. I went to UCLA for American Indian Studies. I'm partially Native American, and I could understand the hesitation to allow large groups of people to display your culture without necessarily having the right avenues to do it. There's a big hesitation there, and I know a lot of Native people are very against it. They want to be the people to tell that story, but it sounds like this, like you said, you were very lucky to have this person who took a chance and was there to help steer the telling of a story of her culture in the right way, and it definitely paid off in that way.
Well, we were lucky in that Gloria came from the Kwakwala-speaking people, and all of the tribes along in all of North America have varying attitudes about how public their art is. For some, like as I understand it, the Squamish and the Coast Salish that are in the same area, that all of their sacred materials are sacred and they're only to be seen by the people that really have been part of the tribe and part of the that really do understand the meanings and can appreciate them. Whereas the Kwakwala traditions were very theatrical, very out there, and kind of enjoyed being theatrical, amazing other people, and impressing other people with their art. It was very public. And so that was lucky. So they came from a background that allowed that. Had things been just slightly different, it would have been very different. So anyway, during the run at Expo 86 of this, a lot of people came up there and saw it. One person that saw it was Michael Eisner, who then proceeded to ask Disney to buy it. And another person who saw it was Terry Van Gorder, the general manager of Knott's Berry Farm, who also tried to buy it, but he came to that party too late. We had already sold it to Disney. And very few people know this, at the time we sold it to Disney, we were doing work on the studio tour project for Universal and simultaneously for Disney. Each side was aware we were working for the other. Each side said that was fine. Don't tell us their secrets and don't tell them ours, but go right ahead. That's totally okay. And then toward the end of the negotiation period with Disney said, we've kind of changed our mind about that. We want to be exclusive. You're going to have to give up your projects that you're doing for Universal. And there were at least 2 with a third one on the way. And we said, okay, if we're going to do that, then the work we're going to be doing for you is uncancelable. And the deal for Spirit Lodge took the form of a pay or play, meaning if they don't actually open it by a certain date, that we get it back, and we get to keep the money. It's not cancelable, you know. So what do you know? They fiddled around. They tried to put it into Disneyland. We couldn't find a suitable place. We did find a suitable place in Tomorrowland. When I called Gloria and told her we were going to put the show in Disneyland, she said, I don't know about that. Boy, Disneyland has got a bad... in Tomorrowland. Our show would be in Tomorrowland. Oh, okay. Because it fits in Tomorrowland. Remember, it's where's the heart in all this steel and glass?
Yeah.
But in the end, it was just didn't work for Disney, and so it expired. So it became available, and Terry Van Gorder pounced on it. And we waited. We gave Disney an extra year beyond what it said.
Generous.
To see if, it's only courteous. But
Yeah.
and at any rate, so it's going to wind up at Knott's Berry Farm. At which point, where is the heart in all this steel and glass just doesn't work in Ghost Town. So the story has to be completely reinvented. We used the same set. We used a great improvement over the original technology. I mean, there's a lot more magic in Mystery Lodge than in Spirit Lodge. But the story just didn't work anymore. So we started thinking, once again, what's the taboo question? What is the story that's going to work? And one of the things we did, I don't know if this is interesting, but
This is beyond interesting. Have you noticed I haven't said anything because I'm just in awe?
Well, we studied the demographics. Who goes to Knott's Berry Farm? Who is that audience? What are they doing today? How is that different from what you're doing when you're at, say, Disneyland or Six Flags or Universal Studios? What's different about that? And right away we knew, Disneyland, and God bless Disneyland, we all love Disneyland. I love Disneyland. My first job in this industry was in the magic shop at Disneyland. So I love the place. But we all kind of know that you've paid so much to get into Disneyland that your day is frantic, trying to run around and see as many things as you can by the end of the day. And very often families will split up. Okay, you two kids go see so-and-so, your mom and I are going to do such and such, we're going to park grandma on this bench here, and we'll all meet back at 4:30. And, it's a little bit frantic. Six Flags tends to be a little bit more of a dating audience, and skews a little bit younger sometimes. Universal Studios has its own vibe, which is... I think when we go to Universal, what we're all daydreaming about, the taboo thing that we will never admit, is that we're hoping that we're going to be standing in line someplace and some nondescript door is going to burst open and there's going to be a movie director followed by a terrified group of people going, "You call those faces? Those are not faces. Why don't you bring me some interesting people like you? What jacket size are you? Never mind. Get this guy in the costume and tell Madonna we'll be ready to go and get in 5 minutes."
Yeah, I think everyone has that dream for sure when they ride the studio tour.
But they've got that vibe going on there, and but at Knott's, what we did was we actually went out and we spent days, not just reading the columns of numbers about the demographics, but we spent time in the park talking to people. We stood in line for rides that we did not intend to ride so that we could strike up conversations with people. We went to, I guess it's called the Fireman's Brigade restaurant. That's an outdoor restaurant
The
with
barbecue.
picnic, barbecue.
The barbecue one, right?
Right. And they have common picnic tables that everybody sits with strangers, and we sort of struck up conversations. So where are you folks from? Oh, yeah, you're from this out. I see you're with your grandmother today, blah, blah. And one of the things we discovered was that the Knott's Berry Farm audience, one of the ways that it's different is, for one thing, they're a lot more calm because they didn't pay as much to get in, and the lines are all shorter. So they're a lot more calmed down and having a much more relaxing day. And they're also tend to be more multi-generational. Everybody's there with somebody they love, but very often there's 2 generations, often 3, and sometimes 4-generation groups where they're pushing grandma in the wheelchair and right next to that great-granddaughter in the stroller.
That's so funny because that was me growing up. Like, my grandparents were there, my parents were there, and I was there. And I have distinct memories of always spending time with the family. The Knotts was that place. So that's right on the nose.
The other thing is that Knotts is a bit more multicultural. There are a lot more. The families that are there are very often the salt of the earth. They are the Americans that make America great. And that includes teachers and off-duty firemen and construction workers, people that, like I said, the people that make America great. And also more than their share of immigrants and ethnic groups, Hispanics, a lot of Hispanics at the. And with that, and when they get the Hispanics, it's even more often it will be multi-generational. So we thought about devising a storyline that would speak to them and what experience they're having that day. So, as you recall, the show opens where the storyteller says, "I've just had an encounter with the owl, and I think he whispered my name, and my people say that when the owl whispers your name, it means your time to die has come." And I feel fine. That was nothing serious, but even so, that owl got me thinking back over my life, thinking what's important. Well, guess what? First of all, that is the real death. That is not the cartoon death of Pirates of the Caribbean or the Haunted Mansion. We're talking now about the real death, something that we normally only talk about in churches or synagogues or wherever, and it's real. And we're talking about what's important in your life. So this gentleman now, with the aid of all of the holovision magic, thinks back over the span of his life, thinks back to a time when he was just a child, and once again in the lap of his grandmother telling stories, thinks through growing up, discovering girls, discovering one girl in particular, who then gives him children, raising those children, loving being with those children.
Another,
right?
And another.
And then eventually he becomes the grandfather. The children are all grown up and gone now, but he treasures them and he wishes he could have them back. And then he's facing now, perhaps he's going to die, and what was the most important part of his life? Well, the most important part of his life was the time that he spent with the people he loved, with his family. Guess what everybody in the audience is doing today? You just hit them right with something very relevant to them. It's what they're doing.
Heart.
And it's also about elders passing on wisdom. So you have that sense, and the whole catch line that's in a lot of the advertising, that all cultures, contain good things worthy of being passed on to the future. And so it's honoring elders, it's honoring family. It speaks right to the heart and the values of exactly that audience based on what they're doing today. And that's the reason I think that it's going to celebrate its 25th anniversary. When we pitched this to Terry, the change of story, because he didn't want to change the story. He wanted the one he knew, and no, you got to change it. He also said, well, this is a very expensive theater. I mean, you don't know the half of it. People that have gone and seen it, in order to pull off that effect, the total volume of that building is about 5 times what you can see. in order to make that
Really?
effect work. Yeah, it's actually about 5.5 stories tall in order to make that thing work. It's just astounding. And Terry, before he built this expensive thing, he wanted to be reassured that the building could be used for something else, a different show. Because I said, well, I think Mystery Lodge will last at least 7, 8, maybe as long as 10 years without needing to change it, because we've given you a classic story that isn't likely to get old anytime soon. People, this isn't real contemporary. This is not, the humor or the content is not contemporary. So it ought to last. And he said, oh no, Bob, we've never had a live show last more than 2, maybe 3 years tops. So in order to satisfy him that other shows could be done there, we wrote you can't follow a native North American show with another native North American show. So we wrote for him a country western musical comedy that would all work around a popular song to be created by somebody like Garth Brooks or somebody like that. And that was, boy, he said, that'll be great. We'll do that in like 3 years. 3 years later, we'll pull Mystery Lodge and we'll do that. 25 years later, I've still got my country western musical comedy ready to go.
You know how much my heart sank when you said that was the idea? Like, I'm sure the show is going to be great, but like for how much love there is for that show and how great it is and how long lasting, and it hurts to think of it going, especially after 25 years.
Well, yeah, and we've had some good luck along those lines. In Epcot, one of the last show that I did before starting BRC was I was one of the 2 producers, and I was the writer on the Impressions of France, which is the 5-screen show that shows in the France Pavilion. And that's now in the Guinness Book of World Records. It is the longest daily running of any film of any kind anywhere in the history of the world. It has run every single day, 365 days a year for now 36 years without ever a day that it didn't run multiple times. And nothing else comes close. No feature film, no documentary, no nothing. So when you get to the classic elements, sometimes these things last a long time. There are a whole bunch of technical things that I'd love to go and redo about Mystery Lodge. But, it just keeps working, and the maintenance crew, the maintenance people, and the others responsible for putting on Mystery Lodge at Knott's Berry Farm have for 25 years poured love and attention to detail into that thing. It is a step. When you understand how the illusion really works and how the technology of that show really works, it's fragile. It kind of just barely works. And they have kept it working beautifully. You almost can't tell the difference between a performance today and the way it looked when it was opened. Hats off to the people at Knott's. They've just done a wonderful job keeping that going and keeping it alive and fresh.
Yeah, the show has always looked good whenever I've gone and seen it through the years that I've been visiting Knott's Berry Farm. And I remember you were talking about briefly about the kind of the story that you're telling in this version as opposed to Spirit Lodge and how it had to change. Did you think about how it possibly could have gotten even more relevant as time grew on? The story of family and being able to cherish the time with grandparents and parents. Because if you think about it, back when the attraction opened, nobody really had smartphones that they're staring at 24 hours a day. Nobody had the internet where they're looking at Facebook or they're watching YouTube or whatever it may be. There weren't all these distractions. Now there's a ton of distractions for people who are at theme parks or who are going to these types of themed entertainment experiences. And I feel like that story of cherishing the time and stories of your family has become more relevant than ever.
That's exactly right. And let me, I don't want to seem real egghead about this because we do popular entertainment. Never forget, if you're working at BRC, never forget you do popular entertainment. You're not trying to do a whole lot of social engineering. But so what I'm going to say is theme parks are the last mass media left on Earth. If I go back to my childhood, 40% of Americans all got their news from one guy, Walter Cronkite. 40%, all from and there was much more agreement on what was truth and what was not truth. We also synchronized ourselves and our values by attending church, attending temple, and there were great national media, things like Look magazine, Life, Saturday Evening Post, that sort of synchronized our notion of what was true in the world, what our values are, what we stood for as a culture, synchronizing ourselves. Well, Look is gone, and Saturday Evening Post and Life magazine are gone. Walter Cronkite is gone. And we don't universally go to churches like we used to. So where is the medium that gives us a chance to synchronize what we believe in, what we value? And I'm not talking here about extreme right or left value systems. I'm just talking about our humanity as people. Basic humanity of what is America, and we don't have that anymore. And we had it in the form of theme parks. And as theme parks become progressively, it used to be about something. I wish I'd prepared by getting the dedication at the base of the flagpole at Disneyland. But Walt Disney was deadly serious about Disneyland. I wish I could recite it. My mind's kind of going blank. To all those who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here, age relives fond memories of the past, and youth may savor the challenges of the future. That is a serious ass mission. I'm sorry, but it is. And if you are old enough to remember the one that used to stand at the entrance to Knott's Berry Farm that Walter Knott wrote, it was similarly serious. Theme parks have the potential to be a very, very serious homogenizing and synchronizing in a positive sense. And I don't mean that as being to gather everybody around one philosophy or the other, but rather to make us feel like we are one and that we have the ability to be one. And in that respect, yes, everything we do in theme parks that is serious and pulls us together as people, as families, or creates cultural tolerance is sort of fulfilling the high, lofty goals of what a theme park can be.
I think those goals were met in this type of attraction because I feel like it's not something people are expecting when they go to a theme park or they go to Knott's Berry Farm in general. I don't think anybody ever realizes that they're going to be not necessarily taught a lesson, but be told something that has a lot of meaning and a lot of weight to it. And when they go through Mystery Lodge, they are sitting down closed and not really open to a lot of different messages. I don't want to go into the topic, but a lot of people are closed off. People tend to be closed off. They leave opened and they leave more willing to accept. And I've noticed that when you sit in the show and you watch people sit down and you watch people leave, people talk to each other. And I think that is a tremendous success out of a show that not only needs to be entertaining, but also needs to be honest and truthful. And to be able to have that kind of outcome is probably the most rewarding experience of anything.
Yes, but you can't You can't just concentrate on that. It must be entertainment. It's gotta be fun. There's got to be something that touches your heart and brings the audience into it. It can't be, it can't be a lecture. It's got to be engaging. It's got to make you kind of smile or feel strong. It's got to be something that's about you. That's why with the story about Knott's and also about Spirit Lodge begins with understanding who's walking around and what's in the other. What at Expo 86? What was going to be in the other pavilions? A lot of steel and glass, and what your experience in a positive sense with Knott's was today. So it has to be. It's got to be fun. It's got to be engaging. It's got to make people happy. And if in addition to that, there's no reason why it can't be meaningful. I mean, if you're going to spend 10 or 20 or $30 million of the world's resources, you'd better give the world something positive for that. Something, we've got a saying, and it's up on our wall, that with every project we do and with every heart we touch, we strive to bring out the best in people. And that's really, why not be doing that? We know that we are capable of creating entertainment that brings out the worst in people. So shouldn't we in a theme park make sure that we're always leaving every person a better person that we touch? And we don't have to impose our sense of good. We just have to bring out the goodness that's in them.
Yeah. No, that's a great mission to have. And like you said, it needs to be entertaining. And I think that's why people don't expect to be touched. Because they come in and they're entertained while being educated and told these messages at the same time. And Mystery Lodge is one of those attractions that does it perfectly. It has this holovision technology along with a great story, which is imperative to a great attraction is story. That's paramount. It has this holovision technology that I feel like to this day is still jaw-dropping to a lot of people that don't expect it. A lot of people when they watch it's like, oh, it's a hologram, because that's the first word that comes to mind, hologram. But I, even to this day, am astounded at how well the technology works. And I know that you said that it's very finicky, I guess, is a term, the technology and how it works.
It's really not a technology, and this is what everybody misses. It's not a technology, it's an illusion.
Okay.
It is a magic trick. And like a magic trick, it just barely works. A lot of people have approached us saying, hey, I want to use your holovision technology in order to fill the ABCD. One person said, I want to use it. Here's what I want to do. I want to hire you guys. I want to rent your holovision projector because I want to do a show in a football stadium. Right away, we're in trouble. I want to do a show in a football stadium, and I want to have the marching band appear in the clouds above the stadium and march down out of the clouds onto the field. Okay, well, that it won't do that. And so people do dismiss it very quickly as being lasers and holograms. And so it fascinates people for maybe a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. And after a minute and a half, 2 minutes, you'd better have a really compelling story, something that has grabbed the audience by the heart or by their smile or something and pulled them into the story and just charmed the daylights out of them. As if you don't, then the magic trick by itself won't carry it that long.
Mm-hmm. The magic trick for you, the magic trick of the holovision magic trick. I can't say technology anymore. It's not technology.
Let's be honest here. I mean, you're being very nice, but I think that enough of your listeners are professionals in order to know that what holovision is is a serious advance and a perfection of Pepper's Ghost, which is, 170 years old, roughly?
Yeah.
Jim Steinmeier wrote an excellent book on the subject. I think it's The Science Behind the Ghost. And Jim is he's probably written more books about magic than any other living person, and possibly more than any other person in history. He's also currently the president of the Magic Castle. And I took him down to see Mystery Lodge and showed him all the secrets a couple of weeks ago. And we got to talking about illusion and how delicate it was, et cetera, et cetera. And I was telling him a theory of mine about the 3 levels of understanding of magic. And everybody goes to at least level 1. Level 1 is, oh my God, I believe in magic. How did he do it? Oh my, the laws of physics are all wrong. Oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. Level 2, a coat hanger up his sleeve. You've got to be kidding. What a jip. I hate magic. That's awful. A coat hanger up his sleeve? I'm never going to look at another magic show again. That's insulting. Level 3, all that with just a coat hanger up his sleeve? Oh my God, that is the greatest thing in the world. The art, the practice, the craftsmanship, the beautiful illusion. Magicians live at level 3. Smart people stay at level 1. The dumb ones either go to level 2 or stay there. Because that level 2 is no fun. Level 2 is no fun. It's more fun to be able to, we don't, the world is so full of so many harsh things. It's nice to be able to believe in magic somewhere. And so, that's why we don't tell the secrets. Most of your listeners immediately know what they're looking at and how we do everything, and probably could draw a diagram of exactly how it's done.
Probably, maybe. I would assume that our listeners are smart people, I hope. And not the level 2 people, not the people that are stuck there. When it comes to for the process of creating it, because I know that you say you had to redo the story, when you decided to change that, did you have to change the effects that you were going to be doing in the show drastically? I know that to a certain extent, yes, to fit the story, but, at the end where he disappears, things like that. Are those things that have to change and move around with the story? Were those things that you thought of in conjunction with the story, or do those things just come after?
We wanted to make it better than the original Spirit Lodge. In the original Spirit Lodge, the storyteller disappeared, but the way that he disappeared is that lightning came down through the smoke hole in the ceiling, hit him, and he turned into a foggy ghost and drifted upwards out through the ceiling while giving his final line. And that was very magical. I had at least one world-famous professional magician said, it's okay, Bob, I understand how Pepper's Ghost works and all that, but one thing that I'm just wondering about, how do you make the guy disappear at the end? And, of course, that's the oldest thing in the world. A gypsy throws a handful of gunpowder in the fire, and then runs out the door while everybody's blinded. That was pretty simple, so we wanted to do an advance on that. So for those who haven't seen the show, as our storyteller, who's been walking around with a walking stick, as he gives his final line, he starts to become transparent from the feet up. First, the lower part of him becomes transparent, and eventually he completely disappears, but all throughout this, the walking stick in his hand remains solid. And after the storyteller is completely gone, the walking stick falls over loose on the stage. And the way that it falls over, it is very, very obvious there are no strings or anything like that. And so everybody kind of, what did we just see? There's an effect kind of like that at the end of Ghosts of the Library, which we did for the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library. For that one, And again, story is everything. And the taboo question works there. Can I tell you a little bit about?
Yeah, more than welcome. Yeah, please.
Okay, so the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library, when we started working on that, we toured other presidential libraries. And I got a couple of them. We had to ask the question, you explain all about your president's life, but why does no presidential library explain what is a presidential library? The important work that you do there. And the answer we got a couple of times was, oh, well, that would be trying to do a presentation about library science, and no one could possibly do an interesting presentation of library science. So we said, okay, we've been challenged. So in Ghosts of the Library, which is in a very similar type theater, but the setting on stage is a presidential archive with bookshelves and a curator's table with a number of things. And the curator, who is our host, comes in and he starts explaining what is a presidential library, at which point some of the kids in the audience start going, ooh, can I get out of here without creating a distraction? But then the guy says, but you know, some say, why save all this old stuff? Who cares? Isn't history just a lot of dumb, useless names and dates you have to memorize to get through school? And you can hear the audible reaction in the crowd.
A laugh.
The kids are all going, yeah, that's what I think, but I never expected you to admit it. And all the teachers are going, oh, this was a big mistake bringing the kids here. And again, you ask the taboo question, and because you know the kids all walk in with that idea in their heads. So in the course of it, he now starts explaining. He says, well, it might be different if these objects could speak, but sometimes they do speak. Sometimes late at night when it's dark and you're alone, and you can guess what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
So different images start to appear. Well, I'm going to skip over the whole middle part and get to the end where the curator says, you see that flag? And he points to it, an American flag in a frame on the back wall that's been there the whole time. He said, that's my favorite object in this collection. And while he's talking about this, he's putting on a coat over his, white shirt. And he says, that was the flag of the 33rd Illinois. I carried that flag into battle. I didn't come back, but you still have the flag. At which point he finishes putting on the coat and a cap. And that completes what we didn't see before. The pants and the shirt and the suspenders were all consistent with a Union uniform. So now we see that he's a Union soldier, and he steps to the front of the stage, down very closer to the audience, and he starts to become transparent as the room behind him transforms into a battlefield at night, strewn with bodies and a cannon caisson, et cetera, and the flag that was in the frame has started blowing, and it is still blowing. It's on a flagpole, and it's blowing in the back behind him. And as he slowly disappears, he gives his final line, which is the idea that as long as our story is told, the best part of our experience becomes your experience, and the best part of us lives on in you. And again, understanding this is in Springfield, Illinois, there are a lot of people in that, all over the United States, but particularly in that part of the country, who have served our military or who have a family member who's served in the military. Some of them have family members or friends who've been lost in battle. And this is right straight to the heart, not only of why we study history, but also why, our emotions, our feelings about the flag, our feelings about our country. It really gets people emotionally right where they come from. And you can have all the magic and whiz-bang stuff in the world, and that's all great. And some people just enjoy that all by itself. But why shouldn't you do something that has some heart to it, has some emotion to it, and also searches for the best that is in all of us, just waiting to come out.
It must be pretty rewarding to create these experiences and change kids' minds when going into an attraction like that, when they're assuming they're going to be bored to death, and they probably leave, encouraged to research more and to learn more about our own history. That must be one of the best feelings in the world.
It's we have a feeling from dealing with, we've got a game that we play sometimes when we're in a room surrounded by scholars. Remember, there's almost always some fact or some brand or some IP that we need to be true to. We're doing a lot of work. By the way, just the range of clients that we have. A short while ago, we were working on the Museum of the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, which is in the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., was one part that we were doing. And we were simultaneously working on Ozzy Osbourne's Hellgate. You talk about Coke and Pepsi. And right now we're also, while we were working on the Bible, we were also working on a project for Jameson, which opened in Irish whiskey opened in Dublin. Done a lot of alcohol-related, brand homes. We're very, very good at it. In fact, if you noticed on our tour when you were walking around, there was an open bottle of hard liquor on almost every desk, and that was okay, because that was what a great place to work, I'll tell you. No, I'm just kidding. We watch that very closely, but nevertheless, that range of stuff of different things. You might be interested in this. I don't know. Most people don't know that I've been fired by Disney 3 times.
Goodness.
Totally fired. And as Marty Sklar used to say, each time fired with enthusiasm. Or he left fired with enthusiasm. The first time I was fired, I was a magician in the magic shop at Disneyland. And the guy who did my exit interview said, "Now we're putting a no rehire by your name. And just in case you get the bright idea of moving to Florida, and you heard that we're going to be building something there in a few years, we've got a new thing in this company. It's called a computer. And they're going to type your name into this here computer, and it's going to come up and say no rehire. So don't you even try it." Second time I was fired, I was a screenwriter at the studio. I thought I'd finally had my career going. I was 21 years old. I was working as a feature screenwriter at Disney Studios. I had an office in the 3G wing of the animation building, just down the hall from Walt's old office and across from Bill Anderson's office. And the head of the story department took time out when he let me go. He took time out of his day to escort me out, me carrying my little cardboard box of belongings. And his final parting words of wisdom to me were, "People like you are why we have guards at the gate."
Jeez.
The third time I was fired, I was a producer at Walt Disney Imagineering. So you see, magician, writer, producer. I mean, who knew that getting fired was a career move? But I say that because any of the younger listeners that you may have that are having temporary setbacks in their career, so what? It's as I think it was Mary Pickford who said, failure is not the falling down part, it's the not getting back up part. So just that as an encouragement. But that's part of that explains the interest in magic. I was always interested in magic until I got to be about 18 or 19 and figured out I couldn't make a living doing it. So Where are we?
I think we're right about the end. We've been talking for an hour. It feels like we've been talking for 5 minutes. I think there's so much to be said about an attraction like Mystery Lodge and, the genesis of the story and how we got to where it is. And clearly there's a lot of stories still yet to be told with its 25 years coming up and the impression that it leaves on a lot of people and the kind of work that BRC and you do on any attraction that you build, whether or not it's Knott's or Jameson or Ford. There's a lot to be said with the quality of the story that's being told. And that's, as we've said multiple times, that is the paramount thing. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me about something so incredible and being able to talk about all the other projects that you've worked on.
The exciting part is the projects that we're going to do. We are at a point now where we are doing projects all over the world, and some of the most interesting they're almost always about something. They're about a great brand, a great franchise, or a set of facts, either historical or scientific or something. But it's always got to be, they're all grounded, except for that one Woody Woodpecker show.
Well, thank you very, very much for spending the time with us. Is there a way that people could find out where they can experience some of your shows or anything like that? Any website that they could go to learn a little bit more about BRC or any of its experiences?
Well, sure. They could look us up. Just Google us. Our website is brcweb.com. And we'd be, if they're looking for work and they think they want to be in this business, go ahead and have them, have them talk to us, because we're always looking for young talent, because we've done a lot of great things over the past. But what really excites me is what we're going to do.
Great thing to end on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking.
For how much love we have of this attraction, it really was rewarding to sit down with somebody who had a hand in creating it and hearing the insider stories of the development of Spirit Lodge and then how it slowly became Mystery Lodge added more layers to my appreciation for the attraction itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great interview and a great topic. I mean, it's something that a lot of people, when they go to Knott's, they might go see it, but they don't really think too much about it or think about how it came to be there.
Yeah, and honestly, Mystery Lodge itself is a hidden gem in a theme park that a lot of people go for roller coasters. Mm-hmm. Usually, that's kind of changing now with the the additions of Calico River Rapids, which it's going to be story driven and a lot of animatronics. Even the refurb of the Log Ride and Mine Ride, really telling a story and something actually happening.
I think the events like Ghost Town Alive and stuff too they took a big
step forward in being a part that isn't just about the iron.
Yeah.
Isn't just about the roller coasters anymore. It's about much more of the storytelling, which is everything that Mystery Lodge is. It's a literal storyteller.
Yeah.
Telling a story to the group of people who've come into his longhouse.
Yeah.
So I'm really appreciative and thankful for Bob letting us have a moment to talk to him about such an incredible attraction. And hopefully, if you guys have never experienced Mystery Lodge,
go see it.
This show will hopefully encourage you to go check it out, because it really is one of a kind, and it really is in the upper echelon of theme park attraction shows, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To me, it's in the level of a Carousel of Progress, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which both those shows are incredibly honest, and that's exactly what this is. So thank you again to Bob for spending the time with me to sit down and tell us about all the interesting ins and outs and the minutia, as we used earlier in the show, theme park minutia of the show. So,
yes, thank you.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it's a little bit more of a a deep dive into an attraction that not many people know. I know we have some listeners from the East Coast and kind of everywhere, all over the globe. I look at the demographics. People listen to this everywhere. But hopefully you still find it relatively interesting to hear about an attraction that is so unique.
Yeah.
So hopefully you really, really enjoyed. And before we jump to the end of the episode, I do want to talk a little bit about our reviews.
We got a new one?
We did get another review. And I do want to read the previous review because I kind of glossed over it really quickly last time. I didn't get a chance to read it.
Okay.
So I do want to read the previous one as well.
Okay.
So the previous one said, Super West Coast Duo, and this was from Frank from Astoria. Glad I could finally dive in on the theme park duo. Initially in search of Disneyland content, I really enjoyed that the duo offer episodes on events at Knott's and Knott's et al. Great conversation, in depth, and never a lull. Frank from of Dillo Diz.
Yay,
So,
thank you.
I got confused. I thought it wasn't showing everything
Because it says ...
...
Yeah.
Normally when that shows up, it means you have to click something.
Yes, that is true.
So thank you again, Frank.
Yes.
For very much for leaving that very kind comment. And then the other new 5-star written review is titled Amazing! It's like yelling amazing.
You know he meant it in that tone, though.
Probably not.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
It says amazing. And this is from Z3BOS or Z3 Boss. One of those.
Z3buzz.
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 Maybe that one. Anyway,
Z3buzz.
moving on. It is. This is my favorite Disneyland SoCal podcast I have found. Love the enthusiasm and the history. The interviews are amazingly awesome. Looking forward to going backward and listening. So that means it's a new listener who hadn't heard everything before and just completely going to end up listening to the rest of the shows, which is pretty awesome.
Enjoy our nonsense.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have 56 reviews, so at least 56 people find our nonsense interesting.
That's good. I know hopefully people like our banter.
Anyway, we definitely want to say thank you to those two people for leaving us a 5-star written review. And if you haven't already, make sure you head on over to iTunes and write a 5-star written review for us. We'll give you a shout out here on the show. And of course, it helps us out. It makes it easier for people to find us and enjoy us like you are right now.
Yes, thank you.
And if you haven't done it, make sure you head on to your favorite social media platform, whether that be Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, and check us out. All you have to do is search Theme Park Duo. If you want to reach us via email, all you have to do is email us at
themeparkduo@gmail.com.
Exactly. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this wacky and crazy bookended episode where we're crazy on either end, and then there's a nice episode in the middle. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and until next time, there's always a great big beautiful tomorrow. See ya.
Thanks for riding with the Theme Park Duo. Make sure to gather all your belongings before the end of the podcast. Bye-bye.